2016, he would have been 4 years old then, 4.5. I had 3 opportunities at him, and he was, let's see, his sheds went he was in the 170s then. So he was a good deer, and I knew he was 4, so he was on my borderline. Should I shoot him? Shouldn't I?
So he's 170 at age 4.
4.5, yeah. It's 172, the sheds went. Yeah.
Wow.
So I watched the deer quite a bit. Now, this deer is not like most deer that I have in that area, which are aggressive. You know, they hang with all the bucks, they fight. This deer is so submissive. He was never with dominant deer. He was always by himself. And even during the rut, he would get on a couple of those and he just wouldn't be around the bigger deer even, or even if he was the biggest deer. When I shot him, he just hated being around another buck. So this was a tricky deer to hunt.
Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 259. Tommy Bradenburg. Farmer rules, getting ruddy, and catch 'em off guard. Support for the Big Buck Registry and the Deer Hunt Podcast comes from Rackology. Everything you need in one bag. Hunters Blend Coffee. Defending hunting 1 cup at a time. Finally, there's a coffee that helps rather than hurts your freedom to hunt. Polar Works Coolers and the Chill Zone. Specializing in the most durable, reliable thermal cups and coolers. Keep your drinks hot or cold in any element. Covert Scouting Cameras. Remote cameras for hunting, wildlife, and security. Morse's Sporting Goods, a full line of sporting goods without the sales tax. And Big Buck merch. You can get cool, high-quality Big Buck t-shirts, long-sleeve t-shirts, and hoodies. And show support for this podcast by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/MERCH. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Dr. Dave Samuel, and you're about to push play on one of the most informative Big Buck podcasts out there. Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Grant Woods from Growing Deer TV. You're listening to one of my favorite deer hunting podcasts on the internet, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey, this is Dr. Ken Nordberg. You're listening to my favorite podcast on the internet, Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen and fellow predators. My name is Jay, and thank you for tuning in to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. For Dusty Phillips and Jim Keller and the entire staff here at the Big Buck Registry, welcome to this week's show. There are a couple things I'd like you to do for us if you could. If you would, please check us out on iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review. With your help, we're going to try and push this show up the iTunes charts. I know we have a lot of listeners out there, and I need you to take some action. I need you to leave a review and subscribe to the show. If you do subscribe, that'll give you access and notification each and every week that a new show is released. You can also access this show in its entirety on YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. It's all right there for you to access on demand at your fingertips. Regarding the harness program, we have an ample supply of harnesses to give away from our volunteer donors. If you're in need of a full-body harness, please send an email to jay@bigbuckregistry.com. At first glance, Tommy Bradenburg is just a common blue-collar guy doing his thing, raising his family in Midwest USA. But then you take a closer look and you say, wow, this guy is hunting and killing some big deer routinely year after year. We had to take a closer look. Sure enough, Tommy, outside of his 9-to-5 day job, is embedded in the deer hunting community, and his hardcore deer hunting habits recognize some uncommon success killing big, mature whitetail bucks. And because it's what we do, we break down all of Tommy's strategies and techniques for you, so you can do it too. We'll get to our entire interview with Tommy Bradenburg in just one moment, but before we do, let's hear about our friends at Rackology and Polar Works Coolers.
Opening day is a finish line to a race that started months prior. A race consisting of dedication, determination, and preparation, resulting in blood, sweat, and anticipation. So when that moment of opportunity presents itself, you can draw peacefully, knowing your time, energy, and preparation started with Rackology. Everything you need, all in one bag.
I always wanted one of those high-end coolers because of the quality that I had heard of, but I couldn't justify the price. Then I found Polar Works. Finally, I found a company that understands quality and affordability. The Polar Works lineup is extensive and is filled with Polar cups, Polar tubs, and Polar soft coolers. So check out polarworks.com when you're considering your next high-quality cooler without breaking the bank. That's www.polarwerkz.com.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. Our first story this week. Ballot measure on right to hunt and fish becomes political flashpoint. This story is from the Fox News website and was reported by Andrew O'Reilly. Voters in North Carolina will be asked this November whether or not the right to hunt, fish, and harvest wildlife should be enshrined in their state's constitution. The ballot measure, which easily passed through the Republican-controlled state Senate in June in a 44-4 vote, has become an unexpectedly divisive issue in North Carolina. Supporters argue that the amendment would protect certain hunting practices, but opponents claim it's little more than a ploy to draw Republican voters to the polls. If it passes in November, the measure would not change state hunting regulations or modify any existing provisions in state law. But it would, particularly the language protecting the right to use traditional methods to hunt, fish, and harvest wildlife, help ward off any legal challenges to certain hunting methods and the hunting of certain animals. The bill's sponsors say that with North Carolina's changing demographics and a population shift to cities like Charlotte and Raleigh, they worry anti-gun and animal rights activists could impinge on the rights of hunters and fishers. In a message to the State Senate Agricultural, Environment, Natural Resources Committee, John Coclazier, the coordinator of the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, said the amendment would act to preemptively halt restrictions like those for bear hunting in Maine and dove hunting in Michigan. Many Democratic lawmakers in Raleigh, however, argue that there is currently no push in North Carolina to restrict any type of hunting and fishing, and that the ballot measure is simply about Republicans playing politics ahead of the hard-fought midterm elections. North Carolina State Senator Norman Sanderson, who co-sponsored the bill to have the measure put on the ballot, told Fox News, "I've enjoyed hunting and fishing since I was 6 years old, and I don't want to have that threatened," he said. Having this in the state's constitution would mean it would need to be taken into consideration every time someone wants to take a rifle out of the hand of a hunter. New Jersey governor bans black bear hunting on state grounds, but not without backlash. This story is from the Fox News website and was reported by Mike Catalini. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy on Monday ordered the closure of state lands to black bear hunting this year. The first-year Democratic governor announced the decision with an executive order, but stopped short of unilaterally ending the hunt altogether, saying he doesn't have the authority. "I'm fulfilling my commitment to stop the bear hunt to the greatest extent of my authority by ordering the Department of Environmental Protection to prevent bear hunting at all public lands under the DEP's jurisdiction," Murphy said in a statement. He also called on lawmakers to take action. Murphy campaigned last year on stopping the black bear hunt, but says the state council, with the sole responsibility for setting hunting regulations, has authorized bear hunting through 2021. It's unclear how many bears are taken on state-owned lands. DEP says it doesn't have the information. New Jersey Sierra Club director Jeff Tittle supports Murphy's move and estimates that roughly 40% of the bears have come from state lands. Cody McLaughlin, a trustee with the nonprofit New Jersey Outdoor Alliance, which opposes efforts to stop the hunt, estimated that about 3/5 of hunters use public lands when hunting various quarry. State officials have estimated around 3,500 bears live in northern New Jersey, and McLaughlin estimated that New Jersey has the densest bear populations on the continent. He said Murphy's decision ignored scientific studies that show hunting is an effective means of population control, particularly in densely populated New Jersey. "Honestly, I'm a little shocked and distressed," McLaughlin said. North Carolina town names Bigfoot its official animal. This story is from the Fox News website. Nestled at the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains, tiny Marion, North Carolina, has a population of just over 7,800, but it's the town's grand gesture that is making headlines. The small town has declared the legendary creature known as Bigfoot as its official animal, nearly a month after Whitehall, New York, also adopted Sasquatch as its mascot. Bigfoot, who has reportedly been all over the country in just a short span of time, will be honored as the town's official animal on September 8th, coincidentally the same time that it is hosting a Bigfoot festival to prove the creature's existence, including eyewitness accounts, video sightings, and recordings, according to the Charlotte Observer. Well, we thought the proclamation idea was different, town manager Bob Boyette told the Charlotte Observer. Who is to say he's not out there? Nobody knows for sure, and there are some smart people who are convinced it's real. The town's mayor, Stephen Little, admitted that he has actually never seen Bigfoot, but that it isn't stopping him from saying that anyone visiting Marion could see the urban legend. Marion is also the home of the Facebook research group known as Bigfoot 911, run by John Bruner, who claims to have seen the legendary creature. He convinced the town's officials to name Bigfoot as its official animal after Whitehall did the same last month. In August 2017, Bigfoot 911 claims they had seen Bigfoot running around a forest in the state. On the group's page, Bruner described the sighting, writing he and his group saw a large bipedal animal covered in hair in the glow from his headlamp. After being spotted, the creature ran off, though Bruner followed and spotted it again, this time where a tree had broken in half. Early this year, Bigfoot was spotted in New Jersey's Pine Barrens and in a Canadian forest. In late 2017, Bigfoot was reportedly spotted in Northern California, where the Little Devil tried to steal a pig from a farmer near Avocado Lake. But he must have left his running shoes home that day, as Jeffrey Gonzalez, a self-described paranormal expert, noted that Bigfoot tripped over an irrigation pipe, which sent the pig flying. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. Special thanks to Daniel Applebaum for leads on some of the stories this week. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have any questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Well, thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here is Tommy Bradenburg. Tommy Bradenburg, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing well, Jay. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Where are you calling home these days?
I'm in Sugar Grove, Illinois, actually. Kind of it's a western suburb of Chicago, about an hour west. So, been here my whole life, actually.
You have? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Grew up in a little town called Batavia, and now I'm a little bit farther out west. More cornfields out here.
Same style, same country, same.
Yep, exactly. It's only 20 minutes. Yep.
Okay. What's the agriculture? What's the landscape like out there?
Usually, it's mostly farm fields, so we got lots of ag.
Okay.
Not too much forest, but we do got some good swamps, which some deer can get old in swamps, so that does help to my advantage.
Yes.
But some farms we have no trees at all.
Okay. Yeah, bucks love swamps, that's for sure. They grow old and sometimes die of old age out there.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. I appreciate you coming on the show. I've been watching from afar, as a lot of us do these days through social media, and I can't help but notice your connection to big whitetails. Either you've got a picture of a deer you've killed, you're a bow hunter by the looks of it. It looks like you're into some antler hunting as well, and you fit that description of the kind of people we like to talk to on this show, because you've got something going on that's working for you. And we like to kind of break it down and see what you guys are doing, so we can help everybody become better.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of my goal too, is to get, some of my information and tricks that I've learned from being in the woods. Some call me a little bit obsessive, but it is what I love to do. So
that seems to be a common theme amongst most of the people we talk to on this show, is that there's a bit of obsession going on with this.
Yeah, well, I think they're trying to hide some of their jealousy, and they just say, you're just crazy. So
Gotcha.
There's a little method to it. So
you grew up just outside Chicago and in the rural areas, it looks like. And did you have anybody that you turned to or looked up to that taught you about hunting and being outdoors?
Well, I tell you, I never had too much hunting in my family. One of my uncles growing up hunted, but never. My dad never did as a little kid. But he started me out really young. But my main start in hunting, I would say, was my best friend. He grew up one block away, and his family always went down to southern Illinois every year, and dove hunted and deer hunted. So I was always interested in that. My neighbor was an archer, so he always shot bows out in his backyard, which would have been my front yard, kind of. He owned a front lot for ours. So I was always interested, even in Boy Scouts. Just the bow and arrow was always always one of my main loves. But I was also a very big baseball player. So
Nice. All right.
when those two got involved, I was growing up, I was always traveling all over the country for baseball and stuff. So I did shoot my first deer at the age of 10, so it was fairly young. My dad was gracious enough, he always tried to get us out and to do whatever we wanted to do, even though he didn't really, have the connections or was even used to it. So he is actually one of his bosses, where he was working at the time, owns land down in Fulton County, Illinois, which is central. Lots of big deer down there. He has a really good, really nice piece of ground down there. And so, I mean, my dad, I asked him, he's just one of those guys. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He didn't say no. He's like, you sure? You bring your kids down here and we'll see if we can get them a deer or something. And 27 years later, I'm still hunting down there. It's funny how that happens, but yeah.
That's nice. That's really cool.
I had a really cool experience the first time I was ever down there. First time we drew a tag.
Gotcha.
For shotgun season, I had a 20 gauge, and my dad was sitting in a tree stand across the pond. I was just sitting in the fence post, closer to the truck. And deer runs right at me, and it went to jump the fence about 5 yards away from me, and I shot it midair, and it dropped. And from that day on, I was hooked.
You're hooked.
So I was hooked. I thought it was the coolest thing in the whole wide world. So that's kind of where I started off. And then as I grew a little bit older, high school, college, my main focus got off of deer hunting a little bit.
Okay.
And the sports kind of consumed all of that, traveling and all the practices and stuff.
Sure.
So after college is when I really, really hit deer hunting, really hard. And,
gotcha.
of course, my archery love is where it started.
Isn't it? I find archery absolutely fascinating. Like,
yeah.
There's a whole bunch of mechanical stuff involved. And,
absolutely.
And I think I can relate it to being a baseball player where mechanics are so important, and that you can probably appreciate that.
Absolutely. Being a pitcher. Absolutely. Yeah. It's very technical.
Very technical as a pitcher. I mean, everything has to be really spot on, and it's a lot like a good bow shot. You've got to have everything exactly right to make it work. But it's accomplishable. Like you can make that work. You can hit your target if you do the same things over and over and over, and you can remember what it felt like, right?
Yep. And I mean, also using the right gear and good sound techniques over and over again. Enough practice will get you good.
How far did you make it in baseball? Like what levels?
I played through college, and I was captain of the team.
Gotcha.
That's as far.
All right.
Yeah. So
very cool. Your love of bow hunting, was that early on too? It sounded like you had some gun activity, but bow hunting was.
Yeah. So Greg's farm down there, it was 2.5 hours away from where we lived. So bow hunting, my dad was always just like, I don't know if you're ever going to shoot a deer with a bow. And I'm like, I'm gonna. So he actually had gotten some property about 30 minutes away down in a town called Yorkville on the river. And it was amazing property. And he used to just, I think I was 13 years old, first time I went out there, and he just sat in the truck and read Baseball Digest, and I walked down the fence line, just snuck in a little cubby, and I waited. And the very first night I had a 6-pointer come out. I shot him at 5 yards
Nice.
And he ran off and died. And I went back to the truck, only being out there for a little bit. And it's like, Dad, I got one. He's like, yeah, right. Like, sure you did. So yeah. And then went out there, but that was another time again, releasing an arrow at a buck, less than 5 yards away. It was just a memory that I'll never forget. And also got me in, deeper into the archery part of it, being up close and personal with it. So
nice. Isn't it funny how like those hunts that you go on by yourself for your first time, where you actually put it all together? There's something magical about that.
Absolutely. And, a lot of my friends like, oh, you never take me anywhere. You never take me Well, I'm a person where I absolutely love doing everything by myself. It's just, it's always been in my nature. I run my own business, and, I do all my own work myself, as carpenter. But there's always been something about me just going out there in the woods with all my gear and beating the deer, and kind of playing this big chess game of watching them grow up, and go out there all by myself and kind of do everything, thinking of trying to beat this animal and to get him to mess up and to be able to harvest them all by yourself and not have any help. I mean, it's kind of kind of what I'm about, and I do think it's really magical, and it feels better. I feel like I've accomplished more doing everything by yourself.
Yeah. And it's not very often that I talk to a group of hunters that help each other accomplish something. Like, that's kind of a rarity. And when it is, it's more like a group push. And I have nothing against that, but it's not my kind of thing. I like the one-on-one. What can I learn? What can I accomplish solo? How can I outsmart the king of the woods here? How am I gonna beat that animal?
Yeah, that's exactly how I think about it. So, and I mean, you learn so much every single time you're out there. And then I always like to take the next step. Like, I started self-filming. So a couple, I would say 12 years ago, just messing around with little cameras. But even stuff like that, once you think you know the deer, it's trying to play the script. That's where the filming's really, you learn more about the deer with filming, because you really do want to set the whole entire hunt up before it actually happens. And that's the tricky part about self-filming. So things like that, you get a little bit more into what the deer's doing, where's it coming from, every single thing. You think about it more, I think, when I was going out there with a camera compared to just going out there with a bow and arrow and sitting in a tree, because anything could happen. Multiple situations could happen, and you could harvest a deer, but to try to get them on that film, that's when you got to take it to the next step and try to get them in certain areas where food plots would come in handy,
Right. That's a whole other aspect of hunting that I haven't really engaged in. I'm still kind of stuck on the hunt, but filming the hunt, that's another level. Some guys are good at it, and I just can't go there. Like, I get so distracted with the very things that there's so much going on anyway that the last thing that I think I need at that point is a camera that I got to figure out how to zoom in on. It's too much for me to handle.
It can be frustrating at times. Let's say that there's a lot of equipment that batteries like to die at the wrong times and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the year, you really start to get burned out about, taking all that equipment out to the tree every day and doing interviews, and it gets monotonous in the end of the year. So you start to not use the camera as much, and then there's the deer. So it's tricky. It can mess with you a little bit.
Gotcha. You're doing some guiding by the looks of it at Weldon River Whitetails. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
So that's a southern Iowa farm. He's got three wild farms and the preserve. The preserve part is what I'm going to be guiding. It's 350 acres, and it's very hilly. All the deer in there are just extremely wild. So I kind of told Mark, he bought it basically just for the land. It is in a great area down there in southern Iowa. So he has huge genetics in that whole area. He's owned farms down in that zone 5 for multiple years, but this land came up and he got it. So it's a way to get other people out there, I guess. It's not something that I would like to shoot and do and stuff, but as a guide, I want to be out there, to give these people who can't experience other things, out in the wild and stuff, a chance to experience what we get to, experience with these big bucks coming in and just hunting in general. Okay. So I'll be their bow hunting guide, and I'll also film with them.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's wild. Yeah. It's an all wildly. It's dependent. He's not putting deer in there. These deer have been in there. It's all naturally bred. They naturally shed. It's so huge. You can work in there the whole entire time and you'll never see a deer. I take my daughters up in the blind, if they move the chair around a little bit, boom, there they go. So yeah. It's a real deal. I mean, I was very skeptical at first, just because I'm not a deer farm person, but I knew these preserves, were out there that, were basically just wild deer that the fence keep humans out of. And that's kind of how I feel down there at Mark's at Weldon Rivers. So
gotcha.
It's a great hunt. Absolutely breathtaking land. I mean, the rolling hills of southern Missouri or northern Missouri is kind of where I grew up in high school. Actually, my mom grew up, was born down in Missouri right there. So all high school we were hunting that land down there in northern Missouri, which is actually only 30 minutes away from Mark's farm here at Weldon Rivers. So it's kind of unique, and I really like going back to it and having the feel of the same land and the same area and same deers as I grew up hunting them, in high school. So
Okay, that's very cool. I mean,
Mhm.
you said that it may not be the hunt for you, but I can see how you would enjoy showing others how to hunt and running
absolutely, yeah.
cameras.
I mean, there's a lot of people, handicapped people, kids, anything like that. I mean, even to the average guy that just doesn't have land or can't go out there, you give them something more realistic, I think. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about it.
Gotcha. Let's move on and talk about Bravery Outdoors. What's that project about?
So, I kind of always wanted to go out on my own. You know how I work with several different outdoor companies. So, I kind of wanted to focus it all into one different thing. I've been with several other companies out there trying to film hunts and do just basically the social media type of thing. So, we've tried to work for names for years, to try to get my own company started. And I have two daughters. One's Bryn and one's Avery. And we always mix their names up. So we were like, Bravery. So it stuck one day. We're like, that's what we're going to name our company. So
that makes sense.
My Bravery Outdoors is named after my two daughters, which are absolutely torn up with the outdoors, just like their dad. They love shed hunting. They love going out there checking cameras and stuff like that with me. So I wanted to give them a little part of it, and they love the camera part. So
that's
they
awesome.
like going on social media and seeing their picture. So
okay.
Whatever makes them happy.
Gotcha. What's your goal with that? What do you want to try to do?
Basically, I'm just gonna keep it small as like a YouTube channel that we're starting in a website. But I'm basically gonna have a web store with all the different products that I've used over the years that I, are proven for me. So any product that I have, I usually have partners with, I call them. I don't really have sponsors. I don't like sponsors. I like partners.
Yep.
So I just want a focal point where they could just go on there, order all their products. Our website's still getting developed right now. We got all our logos and everything finalized, and we're just starting the social media this year. By the end of the year, I want to get the whole web store going up and going, and also have YouTube channel going by the time deer season rolls around here pretty soon. So
nice. Very good. So you've got a construction company. Looks like that's your day job for the most part.
Yep.
And how long have you been in construction?
Oh boy, since I was 13, so a long time.
Oh, wow. All right, so it's second nature to you.
My uncle owned a framing company, so I always, worked for him a little bit. And then when I got my worker's permit, I was full time with him in the union there. And then after college, I got my, I went there for business and ended up business and started my own remodeling company right out of college. I liked the freedom because I was always wanting to be in the woods. So I decided that I was going to be my own boss, and it's worked out well for me.
Beautiful.
Can't complain. Yeah.
Excellent. You're doing some staff work, pro staff work for Easy Cut, and one of the best clippers on the planet, is in my
Absolutely.
opinion.
Yep. Oh, there's nothing better than Easy Cuts. I mean, they're so versatile. I don't leave. I always have them in my truck, and everybody I've always shown them. They're just an amazing tool there.
Yep. Very good design.
And they've got the new pole saw coming out, so we are all excited about launching that.
Thank God. Finally.
Oh, this thing is unbelievable. It goes up 30 feet or something. It's insane.
You can't beat a good pole saw. I mean, they're just so
you can't.
Darn handy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anytime you keep your feet on the ground when you're cutting a limb is.
That's right.
Yeah.
And those ones that are absolutely have to go, they're always in the way when that deer steps out.
That's right. That
drives you crazy.
Right. I love a good pole, so I'm glad they're coming out with something. And you've got this other project that you're doing called Takedown Eventures, and it looks like it's almost like an organization to try to get people into the outdoors of some sort. Tell me about that project.
All right. So about 4 years ago, I think I started with them. This was started by the two Easy Cut guys also, and a guy also named Jason Amato. Basically, it was just started off the premises, we were trying to get people, everybody would, call and say, where in the world can we start? I don't have any friends that hunt. I don't have any, anybody that is even with guns or archery or anything. And I kind of like to do it, so it ended up where all these people were calling Jason and the Easy Cut, Jerry and Scott, and coming up with, can we go have a party, or can we go out there and just go out there and shoot? Well, it ends up now with Takedown Eventures. Jason got it going, so we're doing corporate. events, so team building, and all the way down to picnics and birthday parties. And so we're very versatile. We have crossbows, from 10 point. I mean, we got all the new bows, compounds. We shoot traditional. We also shoot aerial archery. So we throw foam discs up in the air from a machine and have them shoot it out of the air. We throw tomahawks, throwing spears, adlato, which is one of the oldest weapons known to man, so it's a very fun. So what we do is we have different, our main one is our big adventures, which we call the ultimate package, which we give them 2 hours in the morning with sporting clays, as far as just going through 12 gauge basics, and we keep everything competitive. Like we say, there's no point to doing it if there's not winners and losers. That's our kind of our motto.
Yep. Right.
So, but yeah, we give them the 12 gauges in the morning, and basically, just have relational intelligence and get these people feel comfortable with new things, and just have them have a great time. We also have a private chef that owns a couple restaurants. His name's Chris Barth. He comes in and he, to all of our ultimates, and he'll cook up a wild game menu. Very good food. I mean, he has just tables and tables of some of the best food you'll ever have. As far as like deer rib burgers with short ribs and venison and caramelized onions. Yeah. Oh yeah. And he makes some duck tamales and corn husks. He's got so much stuff in there that I can't even pronounce, but it's delicious.
I love a good chef. They just
absolutely
they know how to make all those things that we love taste even better, and it's just so creative.
And he's one of the best guys in the world too. So very personable. And then in the afternoon, after we get all filled up with all his food, we head outside and we do what's called the primitive. So the clients get to pick from our different groups of what we have to do. As far as spears, tomahawks, aerial archery, crossbows, compound bows, all that kind of stuff. And we usually do four stations in the afternoon, 4 to 5. And that's all up to them as far as what they pick. We also do some stuff now for Dave and Buster's, which I don't know if you guys know what Dave and Buster's is.
I do, yeah.
I think it's across the country now.
Pretty much.
But it's kind of like a game how it's inside. So what we're doing now is we got foam tips on our aerial archeries. So you can actually go into a Dave and Buster's and order a package at some of our local ones here in Chicago, just to add to their parties and stuff. We also just recently got archery tag. So we're pretty excited about that. So we do have the face masks and everything. So we have a big archery tag event that you can actually order. So
very cool.
As far as just little kids parties, corporate parties, and then all the way up to team building and stuff like that. So
that's great, man. That's a worthwhile organization. That's excellent.
Absolutely. But yeah, it is. It's just trying to get people outside and give them the real understanding about, what we do and what our part of our lives are and what these weapons are, and have them fun, have good, safe fun.
Yeah, the tomahawks look real fun.
They're awesome. Yeah,
I could get into that for sure. So you've got a lot of stuff going on, and there's no question that I'm sure that the listeners will want to know how you do your hunting. And you mentioned that you had been invited to be on other podcasts before, and this may be your first one. I don't know, but I'm glad you said yes, because some of the deer that you take, and being a solo guy, as you just described, I know there's some things that you do and you do it well. And I think it'll be important to kind of get into all your strategies and techniques.
Okay. Well, yes, this is actually my first podcast.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the podcast world.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm new to this, but it does sound like cool, and everybody's been talking about it. So yeah.
Nice.
As far as my strategies, I'm huge on pressure.
Okay. All right.
I don't own land personally, but just gaining access to different lands. I do a lot of, door knocking and farmers asking them if I can bale hay for them, stuff like that to get leases.
Okay.
I've worked hard at trying to get, local people to get more land, and just basically keeps me not focused on one property all the time. I like to give my properties time, and I like to let my deer get old. That's my main goal.
Nice.
And pressure does that. So if you don't pressure them, you keep them on on your farms longer.
All right. How do you, let's go to your approach as far as just dealing with people. You're dealing with farmers. You have to knock on doors to get permission to hunt some of these places. They're not your property. How do you approach people? I mean,
it's extremely hard, and I usually try not to do it unless they know somebody that I can relate to them.
Okay.
So a lot of times this farmer will be like, yeah, just go tell them my name, or they'll talk to them for me. Cause it's you lose more properties every year than you gain them. It's something that just is really hard to find good hunting property nowadays. So basically my word of mouth has helped me more than anything, just because I stay honest. I keep these farmers happy. I don't, I obey all their rules, and that's the main thing is, if they tell you not to bring nobody, don't bring nobody. So, trying to keep a good, persona around me, or just for people that know that I'm somebody that they can trust on their land.
Gotcha.
And stuff like that. And, sometimes it just comes down to even keeping trail cameras out there on their property. A couple of my leases, they have people trespass all the time. They don't like it. Just telling them, hey, listen, I can keep an eye on all your property for you, blah, blah, blah. And a couple guys are like, yeah, sure, go ahead and hunt it if you keep cameras running. And, I catch the trespassers, and new cell cams out on that, because you can call the cops while they're out there. So it's helped a lot. But basically just being very honest and, having a good reputation has really helped me get more spots.
Gotcha. So they have rules that they want you to follow, and it sounds like having a fair amount of cameras helps them patrol their property when they can. So that's an interesting perspective, and I hadn't heard much about that. But that seems like you could really help a farmer monitor their property by monitoring game cameras routinely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Helps you, helps them.
Exactly. I just got a new lease, and I actually didn't hunt it much last year just because there were so many people trespassing. And it just so happened that this guy lives in Texas. We bought this farm up here right by my house, about 20 minutes away, a nice 80-acre part. And there was just, some lady had owned it for years, and it was just a free-for-all. Let anybody go in there that, ever. So he found that when he purchased it, he had so many people coming in there hunting with guns and like just dirt bikes and stuff, where he wanted to put that to a stop. And I put signs up, and I worked with the local DNR, and we did cite a whole bunch of people, which was good. So
nice. Very cool. What other rules do you bump into routinely? What other rules do the farmers want you to follow?
Lots of times, like, I'm around a lot of alfalfa. So if I do shoot a deer and that deer drops in the alfalfa, I can't just drag it across, stuff like that. I get a stick. You're going to have to tie the legs up, get it carried out. So you're not ruining the crops. Basically, the crops are the biggest thing.
Okay.
With the rules, just making sure I don't damage any of their crops. That's the biggest thing, and leaving no footprint. My tree stands are clean. I don't leave garbage. Just helping them out, cleaning up out there.
Okay.
That's basically their only rules.
Okay. So let's say you get a piece of property that you finally get to hunt. The farmer says, yes, definitely, here are my rules. You said, yep, no problem, I'll follow your rules. What's your step from there? How do you decide where to hunt? What's your first?
That was when cameras. Right away. Okay. I'm a big camera guy. Yeah.
Okay.
So, getting the intel on their property of where they're coming from, where they're not, that's a huge thing. After that, I like to try to glass. So once they start coming out, like right now, full velvet bachelor groups, this is the best time you start learning some of the older deer in the area, their patterns. So of course they're going to switch their patterns come rut, but at least you get an idea of what areas they like to use on the farm. And then it's all up to where I'm parking. So you have to have a good entry. You can have the best land in the world, and if you don't have an entry, you're not going to get to that stand without bumping stuff. So stand location is usually dependent on how easy I can get in there. Sometimes I'm going to have a little bit, it's not the perfect tree, but at least it's going to save me that 50 yards where I could actually bump something. A lot of times my land isn't huge, they're 40 acres, 80 acres, 100 acres. They're not just gigantic spots. So, it's all about being stealthy.
Okay.
And then scent. I mean, scent is from day one in there. I'm always scent free, rubber boots, everything. So
Gotcha. So you set up, how many cameras would you set up on a 40-acre piece, for example, to get the intel?
40 acres, I'd put at least 10.
10
right
acres.
away.
Wow, 10 cameras on 40 acres. Wow. So
just first, I run a lot of cameras, so some of those cameras will be coming down. Like, I like to spread it out, but right when I first got this piece, I put at least 15, I think, out there.
Okay.
Just to give me an idea of where, because I had no idea what was going on. So
that's a lot of cameras to play. So it raises the question: where do you decide to put cameras? Are you looking for a certain topographical aspects or geography?
Yeah, usually pinch points or funnels are my main. I stay out of bedding areas, of course, right now.
Okay.
I don't like to even put cameras in bedding areas at all. So it's usually out on ag or their feeding areas, and their staging areas. Normally, Illinois, I can't really use any bait or nothing. So, but in like Ohio and stuff that I hunt over there, I like to use a mineral site.
Okay.
That just for intel, basically, because I already know those farms as far as the layouts and where the deer are. So those times I just like to use, I'll just stick one right on the mineral, not worry about the rest of it. So,
right. So when you say intel and you're using mineral site, you're trying to figure out what deer are in the area.
Correct.
Okay.
And you can get an awfully good close-up picture. So you can get the size, the rack, you can pretty much score everything. If you get a nice 10-foot, picture 10 foot away in velvet, or several of them, because usually they'll stay at the site for a couple pictures. So it gives you definitely age class of deer and size and also, who and how many are coming in. So.
Okay. All right. And then you can decide, do you reel in the cameras after that once you kind of get it figured out, or do you leave them out?
I leave them out there right about now, because this is right about the time where they're going to start breaking up the bachelor groups. Now then it's completely different. And then I just focus on hunting strategy. So I go from basically getting inventory to the hunting strategy part of it. Because then I want to know where they're bedding, where they're coming out. But like I said, I don't move them until I know their patterns are moving. Because once that deer changes over into it's starting to get ruddy, drops his velvet, then he starts getting predictable as far as what you're going to hunt them. So
that's a funny term. It's getting a little ruddy around here. I like that.
Yeah.
It's starting to get a little ruddy.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's take a little coffee break. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Tommy Bradenburg.
I still can't believe that's all you're taking.
I got everything I need all in one bag.
Rackology Deer Supplement and Attractant, developed through years of intense scientific research, comes a product that puts it all in one bag. Superior attractant, scientifically formulated vitamins and minerals, and all at a much better price. To get yours today, please check out rackology.org for a list of dealers. Rackology, how can you afford not to use it? Everything deer need, all in one bag.
Hello, I'm Grant Woods, and last winter I met Ken, Paul, and Mike. They worked to bring us Hunter's Blend coffee. Paul, Ken, and Mike buy directly from the coffee producers. This allows them to pay the producers at least twice the normal rate and be able to donate to hunting organizations. I encourage you to go to huntersblendcoffee.com and order some today, and ask your local sporting goods retailer to stock their coffee. It's more important now than ever for hunters to stick together and support conservation of our natural resources.
And now back to our conversation with Tommy Bradenburg, Farmer Rules, Gettin' Rutty, and Catch 'em Off Guard. All right, so you got a lot of cameras. You leave them out. You're studying. Not only you're taking intel on what's there, but you're starting to decide, well, where do they travel and where are they going to travel during hunting season? That's where you're starting to hone in on.
Absolutely. Yep. And then I like to start using some mock scrapes, especially once I start focusing on a certain deer. I like to get the mock scrapes going real heavy on that farm.
Okay.
Just to get them curious, and I like to make a deer, try to think. You got to try to stay one step ahead of them as far as making them not know what your plan is, because they can pattern you a lot faster than we pattern them.
Okay.
So
on the mock scrapes on a 40-acre piece, where do you decide to put the mock scrapes? Is it after you've learned the basic pattern of where they are, or are you trying to draw them into different areas?
Yep. If I know the farm, usually you will have, your community posts and stuff where they always make a scrape every year. I would put one right next to it or right there by it. On others, if I know a certain deer, what his staging area is, that's where I try to put one also.
Okay. All right. And then from that, do you decide where you're hanging stands on top of that? Or
Yep.
Gotcha. So you're not trying to draw them to your stand. You're putting your stands wherever you think they're going to be.
Correct. Yeah. That's one thing one of my theories. Everybody says you have the best chance of shooting a big buck the first day you put a tree stand up. And I'm a firm believer of that too, because I try not to ever leave my stands in the same tree. Just year after year, those deer know what tree a deer stand is in, and they just tend to not go around it. So, no, I absolutely pattern the buck and then hang the stand off of when I want to kill him.
Okay.
And it's best if I can even bring the stand in there that day and try to hunt them. But, that's hard to do sometimes.
That was my next question. So, there's a variety of stands to pick from. You got the ground blinds, you got the blinds that are on some kind of platform, then you got the trees, the ladder stands, then you got the climbing stands, then you got the stands that you can put in with using sticks, and first in for easy out kind of thing. What's your preferred methodology, or do you do it more based off of the situation?
Yeah, I would say 90% of my stand setups are the sticks.
Okay.
Just because I can fold them up, take it all in there with the stand, put those sticks up, strap them to the tree, and hunt. It's the fastest way by far. I don't do too much box blind hunting. I don't know. I always make fun of my dad and my brothers. They're sitting up in the luxury boxes, I call them.
Right.
You kind of lose the feel of the hunting, but it is also nice when it's -30 out and you want to stay warm. So
yeah, there can be some advantages.
There's definitely some advantages. I am definitely a tree stand guy. I like the feel of just being up in a tree.
Okay. All right. And sounds like you're kind of mobile. Like you don't necessarily, it sounds like, and usually mobile guys, or the stick guys are moving stands from place to place, popping in, popping out, keeping them guessing is what I call it. Is that
That's
your strategy?
exactly.
It is. Okay.
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. Everything is off of trying to keep that deer confused.
Gotcha.
I truly believe if you catch him and he's confused, you'll get a little curious or something because he doesn't know what's going on. Those deer definitely pattern us, like I said.
All right. So you're probably not a ladder stand permanent structure kind of guy for the most part.
Not too much. Ladder stands I do use. They're kind of handy in really crooked trees or something, and they're cheap, and just put them up there. But no, I do like the sticks and the double stand too sometimes if I can try to get somebody out there with me. So
okay, very nice.
I like to stay mobile. That's the best bet.
What other gear are you using? You mentioned you're sensitive on scent and smell, but what other gear are you using for like camouflage, clothing, early season, mid-season, late season, as far as staying cool, staying warm, and some of the setups you're using for your bow and arrows?
Well, this year, it kind of with Takedown Eventures, we've been wearing Sitka, and Sitka is one of our big sponsors as camo.
Okay.
And that stuff has grown on me, so I really do like it. So this year I am changing all over to Sitka gear. It's just some amazing stuff. As far as bows, shooting a Matthews this year.
Nice.
The Halon 6. Yeah, it's nice. I was shooting Obsession, which I still have that.
Okay.
And I still have my Fred Bear Grizzly recurve bow. So I'm not a one bow person. I like to shoot different bows for different reasons. So
okay. What let's pause on that. What reasons would you switch up to different bows?
My Obsession is extremely fast. And I have it set at 74. So I'm much more comfortable shooting that Obsession at like 100 yards just practicing than I am that Matthews. It's just something about the arrow getting there faster. If I was going to go out west, I am trying to plan an Arizona hunt with my dad this year. So the longer shots at the bigger animals, I think I'm going to use my Obsession.
Okay.
Just because it does get there so much faster. But the new Tri-X is definitely fast too. So
okay, so in some of the scenarios, it depends on what you're up against.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've used my Obsession. I've shot lots and lots of deer with it. And it's more of just a feel. I like, just like the guns, shotguns. I mean, sometimes I take out my youth model 20 gauge just because, you know, the memories, and you bring it back. And it's cool to sit out there, I think, with different weapons that you have memories with.
Yep.
Kind of gives you, you know, another aspect of hunting.
Gotcha. How detailed do you get on scent control? I know some guys go crazy, some guys do a little bit, but they follow the wind. What's your protocol?
I go absolutely crazy. I'm one. I've got a product I use called Carbon Synergy. It's a guy out of Green Bay.
Yeah.
Got it. But it's excellent product. I am not a cover scent guy, and I don't like spraying down with stuff when I get out there. It's just, to me, I've had too many encounters where I believe that did, you know, like one of the does or something did smell that cover scent. Now, I've used Carbon Synergy now for 5 years, and I can tell you right now, I never, ever get winded. That product is crazy. I do shower at home. I have clothes that were washed in Carbon Synergy that go on me when I get to the truck. When I get to the field, I strip down and put all my new clothes on that comes out of a tote. But I do just use all raw carbon from Carbon Synergy and keep all the scent to a minimal.
Carbon Synergy, we've had those guys on the show a long time ago, and we have played with their products, and carbon, obviously, especially activated carbon, is one of the best cover scents known to man.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just getting the bottle of carbon, I mean, yeah, it's messy and stuff, but you can put it on your skin. You can put it on anything.
Right.
It's just very versatile. Mix it with water and spray it. You know, obviously all my clothes get dipped in it in the jugs, and I air dry everything. So I don't try to wash my clothes. So
Gotcha. And shower before you hunt, no matter what kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And you'll hear, I mean, I'm going to tell a story about the baby 12 later, but yeah, I mean, even if I got a picture of him and I want to go hunt him, I drive home and take that shower just to make sure.
Gotcha. All right. Very good. And time frame. I've heard, we talk about when to hunt. Some guys hunt based off of moon charts. Some guys based off of weather, cold fronts, weather fronts coming in or going out. People talk about the rut. People talk about all kinds of different things. Some people hunt only in the evening in the early season. Some people, I don't know. There's 8 million varieties of when to hunt. And what's your strategy?
My strategy is basically, I like to start, my pre-rut is usually when I get real aggressive.
Okay.
I mean, I absolutely love the pre-rut. I'm a big rattling, fan, calling them in. That's one of my loves. Most of my big deer, I do, rattle in, or I talk to them, get them in here. So, scent's big thing for me. Also, I use James Valley scent. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I haven't, no.
Absolutely love it. I mean, by far the best scent I've ever used. It's just, these deer go crazy over it. It's great stuff. But basically, I'm not too much of a morning person hunting anymore with the bow and arrow, just simply because you do just bump so many deer. Now, when I use cell cameras now a lot more, I do know where deer are. There's a lot of times I'll get a picture of them in the morning, and then I'll just stay in the truck and I won't go. But the morning I'm so iffy about it, because you just don't want to accidentally bump them that one time where it matters.
Yeah.
So I am an afternoon, more of an afternoon hunter. When I go out of state, obviously I hunt in a lot of different states. So I try to utilize my time the best I can. So I hunt all day. So.
Gotcha.
But then again, also, if it's a spot where I'm thinking I might bump something, I won't go out till later in the morning.
Gotcha. All right. Very good.
And then sit.
Let's move on to a memorable deer story. So you had a baby 12, that's what you called it. Where does this occur? Where does this go down?
This happened in Kane County, Illinois. It's about 20 minutes from my house.
Okay.
This was a deer that I watched grow up. It's kind of weird. You see some deer come out as youngsters and they disappear usually. And this deer kind of hung around this one area where I hunted 4 different farms there. So that was also a benefit as far as having those 4 farms together. I kind of, had more ability to stay on certain deer. But baby 12, it was 2013, first time he came out. I was filming. He came out in my food plot, and he was a typical 10 with 2 burr points coming off of him. So he was a 12 pointer at a year and a half. And I was like, man, that is a deer that I'm going to shoot in 4 years.
Wow.
I was so impressed by him. I tried to find his, she stayed on that farm most during the rut. It was end of October when I first seen him. I know he stayed on that farm for quite a while. He did winter somewhere else down off because that was a big swampland. So once those swamps freeze up, they tend to go towards warm grass. Okay. And so I never picked up his sheds the first year as a yearling, a year and a half. Second year, he grew a big flyer off the back, but he was still a 12 pointer. He lost one of his burr points, so he's still a typical 10 point, with a couple extras. I watched him. He was just a regular. Even October 1st, at 2.5, he was probably in the 130s. So just a baby bait, a body on him. And he comes out October 1st, comes 10 yards under me, looks straight up, and that's where people would see a little body on that, 130-inch deer with a bunch of points. And that's where the deer's life would end most times. But like I said, having access to farms, I like to get my deer to at least 5. So I did pick up one side of his shed, not the flyer side, but I did get one side off him that year. The next year, he was more located up. He went about a mile north, and he stayed up on that farm for almost that whole year. I knew he was there. I didn't have access to hunt those properties, so I kind of left him alone. And actually one of my friends picked up that shed that year, and I actually traded the shed off for him because I wanted that. I told him, I'm going to shoot that deer. Please let me trade you a shed for that, because that's the deer I'm targeting in a couple more years.
Gotcha.
So 2016, he would have been 4 years old then, 4.5. I had 3 opportunities at him, and he was, his sheds went once. He was in the 170s then. So he was a good deer, and I knew he was 4, so he was on my borderline. Should I shoot him? Shouldn't I?
So he's 170 at age 4.
4.5, yeah. It's 172. The sheds went, yeah. Wow. So I watched the deer quite a bit. Now this deer is not like most deer that I have in that area, which are aggressive. They hang with all the bucks. They fight. This deer is so submissive. He was never with dominant deer. He was always by himself. And even during the rut, he would get on a couple of those, and he just wouldn't be around the bigger deer even, or even if he was the biggest deer. When I shot him, he just hated being around another buck. So this was a tricky deer to hunt. So that when he was 4.5, there were several times he was coming out on does. I'd give a grunt, that deer would turn around and just walk away. He was unlike any other deer that I hunted, just because he was so submissive and so different from most dominant bucks that I'm used to. Yeah. I watched him come out. Let's see, it would have been in the middle of November. One time he came out at 60 yards, and this was when he was 4.5. And I drew back and seeing if he was going to come a little closer to me, but luck have it, a coyote jumped out right underneath me and ran after him, and he ran away. So I let the bow down, so he did live. And then he ended up, I believe he got something stuck in his foot, because we had a really icy winter that year. So his front hoof was really messed up, and he ended up just coming out, and he'd go straight to the middle of the cornfield every night, but he'd hobble out there real early. So the deer was almost impossible to hunt then. So I let him go. And it was, 3 days after Christmas, I was going to do a bathroom remodel job right there by that farm.
Yep.
So I show up in the morning, and I get my lumber list and all my tile lists together, and I'm headed to Menards. And I look over to the side, and the sun's out, at 9 o'clock in the morning, glaring on this open grass field of the property I hunt, and I just see his rack 30 yards off the road. I'm like, holy cow, there he is right there. So I didn't want him to get hit by a road, because this road is like the one road everybody travels in the morning, and I do lose a lot of deer getting hit there. Yeah. So I parked the truck on the side of the road, and I grabbed my phone. And of course, being like me, I don't have much storage on my phone, because I have a million trail camera pictures,
right.
Hogging up all my storage. So I'm deleting them as I'm walking up in my tennis shoes trying to get close to this deer, and I get within 10 yards, and he gets up, and I'm hitting it, and I'm recording it, and then he sheds one side right there on video. So I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, he runs about 100 yards, and I do a little bit of recording, and I'm erasing messages as much as I could to try to get more footage,
right,
more storage area. So I get back in my truck, and he's off, and he joined another 2 or 3 bucks, and then he jumped a fence. And as I was recording him, then my phone had no more storage, and he jumped and popped the other side off right on it. I thought I had it, but I ended up not getting it. But nonetheless, I have both sides of those antlers. So
amazing.
That was pretty special. Yeah, I've seen a lot of deer shed, but not one that I've always wanted, one of my number one hit listers, basically.
Right.
So once he shed, the next day I did have another really big deer still in the area and still had a bow tag. So that next day after that happened, I went to the other side of the farm, and the very first deer that walked out was baby 12 hobbling on his foot.
No
and
kidding.
he come up 5 feet from my tree, looked straight up at me with those bloody pedicles. It's like he just said, "Oh, you're not going to shoot me now."
Wow.
So I let him walk off, hobble off, and waited till that last year, 2017 here. So started getting velvet pictures of him right away. I was using the licking stick. I like to use the licking sticks in my food plots just to add all the scent. I got some great pictures of him there. He was hanging in some swamps. I had him patterned so great. It was looking great. And then October 1st, it was the end of September. All of a sudden, my cameras weren't getting him. It was weird. And I got a trespasser back there on my cell camera. So he ended up bumping that deer out of that area, and the deer went 3 miles. So I was freaking out in October, thinking, I don't know if I can get him back in his property. I ended up getting pictures of him on the neighboring farm that I hunt. So I actually sat there, but then he ended up working his way back onto the horse farm. So it worked out perfect for me. I would say it would November 2nd or 3rd. I was taking my girls to school, dropping them off at school, and I got a cell camera picture of him in my food plot running around. So I'm like, oh man, this is my time. So like I said, I dropped the girls off, called in sick for work, went home, took a shower, got all carbon synergy, grabbed the bow, got out there. Within an hour, I was at the field. Well, I had gotten another picture of him on another field. So I knew the direction he was going. So I went downwind, actually parked in another lot and came out. And I was going to sneak into a couple stands I had downwind because I knew he was headed back to the swamps to bed. So I got back there, and on the way I was getting back there, the doe was, 15 feet from me when I turned the corner of this bush. And so I just dropped to my knees. I didn't see him at that time, but the doe stood there, and I put my head down, closed my eyes so she wouldn't see. Or she didn't. She actually was 5 feet away from me. I could hear her breathing, and she never snorted, never nothing. That carbon synergy really worked and saved that opportunity. Well, she worked off. She was nervous. Of course, she knew I was a person. So she worked off, and the deer came out, and that was the first time I'd seen him, like in person, ready to shoot him at that season. And I drew back, and he came out at 60-something yards. He just never stopped real good. I wasn't comfortable shooting right there that far in that field. So I let him go. That was very heartbreaking, but I watched him follow that doe right back down in there. But it was, so cool of a memory. So then he started showing up. He kind of went nocturnal a little bit because I think he bred that doe and she was done. And it was weird. I didn't have too many does go into heat early November. So then it ended up being November 20th is the day I got him, I believe. But the 19th, he came out in daylight on a cell camera. So I went down. I knew he was coming out on this. So I went down to I call it the Killin Tree. Mm-hmm. And of course, my camera goes off and I'm in the stand, and he came out on the other side of the forest.
Of course.
So I got down, but I knew he was headed to that cornfield, and he did have a fawn that was in heat. going out there. So soon as I figured he was going to stay on her, because that was the first night he was on her, and he was right there. And being so submissive, Baby T never followed a doe or even wanted to be by another deer unless it was serious. So I knew when he was with her, that was going to be my opportunity right there. So the next morning, I picked a tree. I figured if he came out that way, maybe that little fawn's going to want to go back into that same exact field. So I went to that field, and as soon as the sun started coming up, I seen the rack out there. So that's when it got exciting. He came across, he got onto our property, and then he started coming across this open CRP field. And I gave one grunt, and he came in, and I shot him quartering away, and he died real soon. So I was pretty ecstatic.
Wow. How far was the shot?
It was over 50. I was probably 55 exactly.
Wow, that's a heck of a good shot.
I felt comfortable. Yeah, I shoot a lot, being you know, a guide and archer and stuff. So I practice a lot of long distance, and I feel very comfortable at 60.
Gotcha.
So anything under that is pretty much a slam dunk for me. So
very cool. Well, that's a very memorable hunt. I appreciate you going through.
Oh man,
that's awesome. It's an amazing deer, and the story behind it. I mean, how many years did it take you to actually put it all together?
Well, he was 5.5 then, so I mean, and I've known the deer ever since. So
okay.
Yep, since he was 1.5. When he came out at 1.5, I mean, his rack was unmistakable as a 10-pointer with kickers. So or the 2 burr points.
So there's a couple questions.
He ended up going.
Go ahead.
He ended up going 186, I think.
Wow, awesome. Dude.
So yeah, my best deer.
As I was listening to the story, a few questions popped up in my head, and I was out of curiosity. How far was the buck traveling routinely in its home range?
In its home range, when he was. Well, see, now I truly think this deer had 2 different home ranges, because like I said, the one year he switched, and he definitely felt safe in 2 different spots, because when he did leave, he would leave for a month and then he would come back.
Okay.
But it was really weird when he got to those spots. His home range was extremely small. It started, I mean, I would say he stayed in a 100-acre swamp most of his life. And then the other swamp is about a 50-acre swamp. And those are about, I would say 2 miles apart.
Okay.
And in between there's a bunch of brush and stuff. But those were his 2 core areas. He was definitely a swamp deer. He liked staying in water.
Gotcha. And how long did it take him to come back to one of those core areas after he got bumped by the trespasser? When he got pushed 3 miles away?
It took all the way until November. So it was quite a while. I was getting pictures of him, like I said, on the other farms, but he didn't come back onto the one that I harvested him on until, it was, I think November 2nd was my first picture back over there.
And he got bumped, was it in October?
And it was end of September. Last day of September. Yeah, I was actually out of state on doing a takedown adventure, and I got the picture of him trespassing. He was actually trying to hang deer stands because he had seen him.
Okay. So in theory, it took him almost 2 months to come back.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah. Almost all of October. So basically 1 month.
1 month. Gotcha. All right. So end of September. So about a month. Okay. So about 4 weeks total to get back to where he was comfortable originally.
Right.
And you had mentioned something about a licking branch, like you like to set up licking branches. Is that something that you look for the licking branch, or is something you synthetically try to create in an area?
Yeah, no, it's actually a product by Jeremy Moore. He also owns Dog Bone.
Yeah,
he's up in Wisconsin. But yeah, he's got Hodag licking sticks. So what it is it's a plate with a spring in it, and it almost looks like a Christmas tree holder, with the little set screws.
Yep.
So what you do is you take it completely scent free, and I use my Easy Cuts to do this. That way you don't grab no branches, but you pick a branch off of that field that they normally will hit or something, and then you stick it in this, and then you put scent on it. Now, getting it out in the middle of a food plot, it does a lot of different things, so you can use it as a yardage marker for shots. That way you don't have to range anything. But it's nice to set them out there, I think, and give the deer a community spot in that food plot. So when they do come in, they almost all hit that licking stick or tell their deer that they're there. So I use those quite a bit, and they are very helpful.
So it actually acts like a Christmas tree stand would?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. You put 2 stakes straight down in the ground. on the plate, and then it's got a spring so that it can go back and forth. So when the deer come up and rub it, they don't break it off. It comes right back up. So I don't know if you can go on my Facebook and see my pictures. You'll see a bunch of it I posted last year. This year I'm a little bit late getting all mine set up.
Okay.
So
and how many do you usually set out in a food plot area?
I got 6. I only put 1 in a food plot.
Okay, so you use 6, but you put 1 in a food plot. And
yep.
What type of scents are you putting on them?
Now he provides one. I don't even know what's in it, but it works really well. Otherwise, I also put the James Valley. Now James Valley, I use what's Wow, and it's basically your scent glands from your head.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
all right. And then you mentioned the Killin Tree. The Killin Tree. I assume it is what it sounds like, but why did you declare it the Killin Tree?
The Killin Tree, we called it the Killin Tree because it's 22 foot up in the air, okay? Because I wanted a tree down in the middle of stuff, and I don't even go down there until usually rut, and that's the thing. I sit it, the first week in November, and there's always deer down there. Now, we call it Killing Trees because most of the time when I do finally decide to go down there, I do kill. I think 7 or 8 Pope and Youngs out of that tree in the last several years. So it's in a good spot, and I went really high with it so you don't get busted, which was important in that little area. And that's how it got its name.
Gotcha. Fascinating. So you, just a great story. A lot of little good details I think we'll be able to take home, and it certainly kind of sums up a lot of your techniques and strategies. So that was very good. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So, Tommy, I've got 10 rapid fire questions for you, and I kind of told you I had them. I didn't tell you what they were, but if you're ready for the exercise, I'm ready to fire.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Fire away.
What's your number 1 hunting tip of all time?
Oh, hunting tip. I would say be patient.
Excellent. We have, or some of us have, these things that we don't like to hunt without. So maybe it's a good luck charm or something that you got to have with you just because you feel a little more confident, and it drives us crazy if we leave it in the truck or at home. What's that one thing for you?
I got a lucky $2 bill.
Oh, very nice. Excellent. What's your biggest pet peeve in life?
Oh, I would say people that lie.
Okay. All right. I was going to say maybe it's walking the first batter. I wasn't sure, but
yeah, that's not good either.
That's not good either. Right. What would you tell your younger self, knowing what you know today?
Oh, I would. Oh man, that's hard. That's hard. I would have to say that I would have stopped baseball a little sooner and focused on my career more as a carpenter, I think.
Okay, gotcha. All right, you're at a hunting convention somewhere in the world, and a stranger comes up to you and asks you what you do for a living. What do you tell him?
I'm a carpenter.
Okay. Very, very straightforward. What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
I had bacon and cinnamon rolls.
Nice. All right. You can have your own billboard on the side of a highway. It's a blank canvas. You can put anything you want on it. What would it say?
Oh, boy. That's a good one. I don't know.
Okay. All right. We can move on to the next one. You
Let's
think
pass
about that.
on that. Let me think about that.
Let me think about that one. If I say the word successful to you, who is the first person that pops into your head and why?
Ooh, I would have to say my father.
Okay.
Just because he's always seems to be on the straight track and does, he always knows what he wants and gets it.
Gotcha. What's a typical day in your life look like?
I wake up, feed the kids, get them to school, get all my material ready for my jobs. I get to work, typically work quite a bit, and then it's off to one of their either tumbling, swim class, cheerleading, sports kids. Get home pretty late and have a little time with the dogs and sit down and watch TV with them.
Nice.
If I'm not out of state, though, because Takedown Eventures, I'm always out of state. So.
Yep, gotcha. And what's a typical deer hunting day in your life look like?
Typical deer hunting day is I will get up super early. Usually, if I'm out of state, I like to get up early, get everything showered, have a good breakfast, and then get out there and sit almost all day. Usually,
okay.
If I'm out there,
All right.
Hopefully it's putting a deer in the back of the truck at the end of the day.
Right. All right. Yeah, very good. And then going back to the billboard question, what would you put on that billboard? Or maybe a hashtag of some sort. Is there?
I think I would put live life at full draw.
Well, that's a good one, man. I like that a lot.
It's something somebody told me one time, and it stuck to me. So, I mean, I think I like that.
I like that a lot. Live life at full draw. Very nice. Well, that's the 10 rapid fire questions, Tommy, and I appreciate you going through the exercise. If we've either not answered all the questions that people have that are listening, or if we've created more questions than answers through our conversation, where can people reach out to you?
They can always email me at braveryoutdoors.com or braveryoutdoors@gmail.com. Otherwise, my social media, you can always find me at Tommy Bradenburg on Facebook, or Bravery Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on both of them. So
very nice. Excellent. Well, Tommy, this has been an honor and a pleasure, and thank you so much for going through your strategies and techniques. You're a great deer hunter, and it's so nice when somebody can come on and just kind of detail how they do it so we can do it too.
Oh, thanks. The pleasure's all mine, man. I really appreciate you letting me on here. So this was a lot of fun, Jay.
Well, thanks to Tommy for coming on the show. He caught our eye, as many a good deer hunter will, and thought we'd pick his brain for a little while on the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. He certainly had a lot to offer. He's got a lot going on with that Takedown Eventures and being a pro staffer for a bunch of different products. I mean, he really touched on some big things. He's huge on pressure, knocking on farmers' doors, understanding the rules of the landowner, setting up mock scrapes, the lick and branch, doing the property intel, and getting into how to catch them off guard. Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week this week?
I think that I'm going to go with...
The Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
The available knowledge out there on equipment that you can purchase, reviews, facts, demonstration videos, you need to utilize all that when you're going to buy or spend your hard-earned money on a piece of equipment that your life's dependent on, or your success of killing a mature whitetail is dependent on. Take the time, review the products, watch the videos on how to put it together, there's a lot of things out there that could be beyond your skill level, and you buy it, and you can't get it figured out. That's something that you need to take into consideration when you're spending your hard-earned money on a product. Do the research, Google it, YouTube it. As myself as a hunter, before I buy something, I check it out. I go through and find out where the flaws are and why and how. And if it's a good product, there's going to be great reviews. I mean, that's just the way it works. So take the time and research your products that you're buying to go to the woods with. Tree stands, trail cameras, all of that's it's all information that's available right at your fingertips. Just take a little time, slow yourself down. I'm excited, no different than everybody else, to buy a new product, but I definitely want to check it out and make sure it's something that's functional for me. It's going to work for what I want to do with it. It's going to withstand not only I'm a big guy, so I got to check things for weight, size. It's got to be wide for me. You just do your research and spend your money wisely. And I tell you, it's more rewarding when you can have something that actually helps you and works great for you in the woods. It just makes you feel a whole lot better about the way your season's going. I'm telling you, I'm living proof of it. Jay, you're living proof of it. And there's a lot of hunters out there that take the time and get educated on what you're buying. That's my Chubby Tines tip of the week.
Oh, that's great, man. Thanks for that tip of the week. That was fantastic. Dusty, where can we find you when you're not hanging out here in the studios with me?
Shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can look me up on Instagram and Twitter @ChasingAntler, Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
Likewise, you can shoot me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com, and you can visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Twitter, which is twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Instagram, instagram.com/bigbuckregistry, and YouTube, which is youtube.com/bigbuckregistry. On YouTube, you can listen to all of our podcasts in their entirety. far as videos are concerned, it's a boring video, but the audio content is there, so you can actually listen to our podcast. You can also listen to all of our live shows that we've done on Thursday nights when we do them, and we've gone back and re-interviewed a lot of our previous guests we had on the show just to put a face to a voice, let's put it that way. You can always listen to our show on other places as well, not just YouTube. We're found on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. And if you would like to submit a buck to our page for consideration and be featured on our page in front of 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans, all you have to do is go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, and all of the instructions will be right there. I think that's pretty much everywhere we're at. I think that's a wrap, Dusty.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
Sure is. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.